Boom! Welcome. We are live. Tokyo Tonight, back in Tokyo, back in Japan after 2 weeks away. Hope everyone is doing well. Great to see so many people back. First of all, I have to say big shout out and congratulations to DJ Sunny Side Up. I'm actually really happy that we kept up the MASH battles on Tokyo Digital Crew while I was traveling. It was something that even when I couldn't make videos and stuff easily, I can always just on my mobile phone make these mashups, and it's just a super fun thing to do. And we're 1 for 1. Sunny won last week, and I saw the result just now where I won this week. And yeah, it's super motivating and fun. In terms of the pre-show and the after party, because I just arrived back in Japan at 10:30 this morning, it was actually more the way that it works is coming back from Europe. I didn't really sleep on the plane. So I was basically sleepy when I arrived, and I couldn't help it. I had a nap this afternoon. It is currently, what, I think morning or midday in Europe at the moment, maybe midday. So I'm not actually that sleepy, but I am working tomorrow. So I need to get some proper sleep after this. So I am just going to do the stream today, and we'll get back to we'll get back to trying to get back in sync with the time zone so I can get up early and work. So I won't do an after party today, but I'll be back on the full program next week. But yeah, DJ Sunny Side Up doing a fire mix, winning the mashup battle last week, and managing all the editing and uploading and everything like that. So just a reminder to everybody, go subscribe to Tokyo Digital Crew. It's not just Sunny and I, it's other people as well, but right now we're the two most active people. But of course, you can catch all of the streams, the music streams that I do before and after the stream there, as well as the MASH battles. And I really appreciate everybody who voted and supported those while I was away. How is everybody doing? No audio. Oh, audio's back. Was the audio gone? I was actually wondering about that. Let me just double check in the settings, because nothing ever goes wrong when I check the settings. Looks like everything is in order. Maybe it just dropped out for a moment there. Yeah, so who we got in here? It looks like we've got tons of people. Got Kerberos Tenshi got in here at 9:30, so thank you for that. Void Theft in not long after that. Tomoko was in Paris as well. Okay, so that's really cool. I didn't go to Paris, although it was my first ever trip to both Italy and France. My dad, every 2 years, not every year, every 2 years, my dad and his wife, I've got a lot of cousins. My sister is in UK, I've got cousins in Europe. And once every 2 years during the Northern Hemisphere Southern school holidays, they do a big meetup in France. My dad and his wife spend like a month there, and they've always invited me, and I've never gone. So this year I went, even though it was just me. I used the opportunity to travel around a little bit, and I basically traveled everywhere between Nice on the French, basically the whole French and Italian Rivieras on that sort of northwest part of Italy and southeast part of France. So I went everywhere pretty much between Nice and Cinque Terre, pretty much. I sort of drove all around there and then flew out through Rome and just came back on the flight on ITA Air today. For those wondering about ITA Air, I mean, if you want to go to Italy, maybe I should have gone through France. I don't know, but it was kind of fun going through Italy. Yeah, it was interesting. I wouldn't say it's a great airline. Both flights, there and back, the toilet was broken. The food orders were all sort of wrong. Wasn't really clean. It was 2 hours late. I missed an overnight flight on the way there, and had to be booked onto a flight the next day. Although that said, they put us on a bus and put us up in the Sheraton overnight, which was nice. But a bit chaotic. Not when you're used to Asian airlines, which are just consistently really good. Even like Singapore, Thai, Cathay, Malaysian, definitely not including Qantas in that. Although I would say Qantas and Delta are clearly better than ITA Air. ITA Air is kind of down there on firm third tier. Top tier airlines definitely being ANA, Singapore Airlines. I've never flown the Middle Eastern airlines, but from what you hear about Emirates and so on, they're supposedly up there as well. Then you've got middle tier of like not good, not bad, but not great either. Like, basically nothing specifically to really point to and complain loudly about. Just, not as good or as friendly as the top tier ones, which I would put Delta and Qantas and Air New Zealand and so on into. And then you've got airlines that you can proactively see things wrong with. And yeah, ITA Air definitely is in that category, but you get to go to Rome and you get to have an amazing trip. And I was driving everywhere on the wrong side of the road in a manual for 2 weeks. So that was pretty cool. Did really well until I sort of threw out my lower back the day before I flew back. But that said, I got back. I'm better now. So yeah, went pretty well. Anyway, so I didn't get to Paris, but did get to spend a fair bit of time in France and a bit of time in Italy on the way back. Came back through Italy. So yeah, really, really enjoyed that. Anyway, we've got Dan H in here. Hope the trip was good and fun. It was indeed. Would have been nice to see most of the family after a while. Yeah, I'd get to see my sister actually. Our timings didn't overlap. Or my cousin, which is another reason to go back there. But it was great to see my dad and just to go and actually see what the big deal is about in southern France. Also, super interesting comparing France and Italy on both sides of the borders there. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I like both, but they are naturally really different, even though they're close together. Definitely, I mean, for just scenery and how picturesque it was, Italy clearly won. Clearly won. France is kind of a shit show, but it's more. You can tell there's more jobs. It's more economically active. There's more going on. I would also say food. I've had great French food in Tokyo. The food at home was amazing, but it's the same as I would get back in New Zealand. Frankly, my dad and his wife are excellent with food. But I'd say the eating out food was definitely better in Italy. Yeah, I mean it was amazing from those aspects. But driving was a bit scary. It was a bit scary in both places. But yeah, a lot of fun. Anyway, so yeah, it was great to see everybody. Lara, great to see you, Lara. Great to have you in here. Who else we got in here? We got DJ Sunnyside Up. Welcome back. Great to be back, and thank you again. Black Tengu. Greetings from a beach in the Aegean Sea. Well, I am. Well, I was not on that side. I was on the opposite side. I did actually, of course, because first time France, Italy, and although I've been to Spain. I didn't swim in the Mediterranean. So I swam in the Mediterranean multiple times. In fact, one of my favorite things when I was in France was going for a run around Antibes, where I was staying and jumping in the sea at the end of it. So learning the Mediterranean, but I've been in the Adriatic, but not in the Aegean. And I'll tell you what, though, the food, you must be having amazing food. I think I prefer the approach that I associate partly with Greek food. Although Greek food, you've got the lamb and all of that stuff there as well, but definitely the simple grilled fish and fresh vegetables that I assume you're also having from an island on a beach or wherever in the Aegean Sea. I'm hoping that's what you're having there as well. That was amazing. Shubas, standing by here in Panama. Great to have you here in Panama. I'm on time-ish. I just had some issues setting up, getting the camera and everything to work. Everything's a bit rusty since it's all been powered down. But great to have you in the chat as always, Sadiq. Sorry that I'm not doing an after party this week, but just getting my bearings again. Jet lagged. Hiko Simon coming in hot. Yeah, but fortunately, this is right now. I'm in the jet lag where I should be tired, and I'm not part of it. So the question is whether I can get to sleep, even though I did have a nap this afternoon. I watched 15 episodes of Below Deck on the fly. Which season was it? I don't even know what season. It was in the Caribbean. It's on Netflix in Japan right now. I used to watch that when I was marathon training. I would just watch it over and over. That was really, really good. Also, anybody who's watching Andor or watched Andor, that's over now, of course. And I'm very much enjoying watching Murderbot, which I also watched while I was traveling. And that's going up every Friday at the moment. And that's really, really good. Yeah. So even when I got back, I've been watching. I may, if I need to get to sleep. It's just crap enough that I don't care if I fall asleep while I'm watching it, but it's good enough that I can keep watching it and be entertained. So, yeah, Below Deck, the perfect reality show in my mind. That yeah, you never get too invested. Tom, great to meet you. Just again, just before I went out traveling, and great to have you in the chat here as always. Um, yeah, yeah. So please continue to hold a customer service representative. Yes, I made it. I made it. I made it. Yes, yes. Kampai for sure. I'll tell you what. The coffee in Italy. I learned how to drink coffee kind of quasi Italian. In fact, there are different styles even within Italy. I had coffee in France as well, but mostly at home, so mostly from the machine. Since we were renting a house there, but out and about traveling, I definitely had more coffee in Italy, and the whole the thing about like having the little shot. I don't like espresso, but I kind of like the culture of how they drink it there. How you get the little shot and you just have it at the counter where you pay and you put it down, literally like a shot. And it's quite drinkable. I mean, as espresso goes, especially if you have it with something sweet. Oh, the apricots were so good everywhere. But yes, I'm remembering stuff at the moment. I had a great trip anyway. Don't throw squirrels. They get addicted to it. Oh, don't throw squirrels. Don't throw squirrels? Okay, I'm glad I didn't do that. But yes. Good to be back indeed, seeing everyone's faces, of course, because actually, even before I left, I didn't even do a Tokyo Tonight because we did a 2.5 Voyages, a great 2.5 Voyages, but it's been like 3 weeks since I've done one of these shows. So it's great to see everybody back indeed. Thank you for not forgetting about me. Good day, Lysander45. Great to see you. And actually really happy to see everybody in here. We've got, here we go, audio not working, so you missed the boom. But yes, glad that we're here now. Yuri the best. Great to have you in from Kyiv. Hope that you are doing well. Also hoping that you can make it into Japan sometime. But Aaron providing technical support, advising that if you're not hearing sound to turn off your browser and turn it on again. So all of that. Believe in yourself. Great to see you just before as well in the countdown of the result for the Tokyo Digital Crew for the mashup battle for this week, which I won, but I basically I pulled out like four tracks to mash with, which I think are like trump card sort of tracks. Like you'd be almost guaranteed to win whenever I used any of those tracks, and I put 4 of them into a mashup. So I sort of overreacted to losing to Sunny by basically shooting off every missile that I had, which is a terrible analogy to be using right now, I know, and we will get to that. But just see who else is in here. We've got, in fact, I think I've covered everybody, unless this updates suddenly. But get melatonin. I got some melatonin. Oh, you mean to sleep? Melanin. I got a little bit of melanin, although I'll be pale by Tuesday at this rate. Melatonin is probably a good idea, actually, but we'll see. Since I stayed up all night and I had a wee nap, but not a full sleep, so I think I should get to sleep tonight. And if I don't, I'll pay for it tomorrow, and I'll sleep properly tomorrow. So yeah, I'll deal with all of that. Thank you, Aaron, for throwing up the link to the Tokyo Digital Crew, and yeah, go subscribe. I mean, that channel as well. Nothing is monetized. If it is monetized, we get in trouble because we're putting up music there all the time. But yeah, what kind of car? What kind of car, asks Aaron. I really wanted a Fiat 500, the cute little bubble, the Bambina, the new Bambina. And I rented a car specifically that from a car company that said that they had that. But I showed up and they said they didn't have any. So they put me into a Fiat Panda, which I wasn't as into the idea of. But that said, the Fiat Panda, being a really narrow, tiny car with a high roof, it was pretty comfortable. Not comfortable driving for like 4 or 5 hours, but yeah, it was pretty comfortable, and you needed on the roads in Italy and in France. The roads are so crazy narrow that I couldn't imagine how. I think I couldn't have even parked at my dad's place if I'd been in a car any wider than a Fiat Panda. So Fiats, anyway, so I had a good time with that. And it's funny as well, in Italy, all the cars are manual, which I actually like, because when you're driving on what as a New Zealander, Japanese, Australian, Singaporean, British person would call the wrong side of the road. There's always that problem about when you turn left or right, which side of the road you go onto, or when you want to turn a corner, whether you hit the windshield wipers or you hit the actual indicators and stuff like that. And I find having a manual means your hand is always kind of physically on a reminder of which side the footpath should be. Yeah, manual is actually good. When I was in Romania as well, I found it the easiest transition to rent a manual, and so I did that. So I had a manual Panda, which was great, except it doesn't have a lot of highway power. It didn't quite match my driving style of somewhat aggressively driving. So yes, Ita, that is exactly what happened when Alitalia went bankrupt. And in fact, Alitalia, the plane I came back on was still basically Alitalia. They hadn't even like repainted that plane yet. Some of the planes they repainted, but yeah, I don't know. They're not good. But if you want to go, I mean, if you want to go from Tokyo to Rome, you either go ITA Air or China Airways, because now since you're flying around Russia, which was another thing as well, the flight should have been 10 hours, but because you fly around Russia and obviously now also avoiding Iran, at one point you actually have to fly over the Caspian Sea from Kazakhstan to Azerbaijan and Georgia and Armenia and fly over that little strip. So you're neither flying over Iran or Russia at the moment. Plus, the direction map said it was going to fly directly over the middle of Ukraine, which would be lovely, and I hope to do someday. But obviously not at the moment. Fortunately, through the Black Sea, it changed course and went around. So it went around the long way. So it would actually be the same flight time right now to stop in Beijing. And I think those prices are competitive, or except of course you get a non-stop flight to Rome. But I think they're probably pretty similar anyway. I'm going to skip ahead in the comments. Is there anyone else I haven't seen? Mike Zilla, great to see you. Hiko, watching any anime these days? Asking. I've never really watched, other than when I was a kid. In the 80s, I watched anime without realizing it was anime. In those days, it was just the animated shows that were on TV in Singapore and New Zealand, which I discovered later in life were all actually Japanese and dubbed. Yeah. Okay. So it's just Mike Zilla else in there. I'm just going to quickly see. Was it a direct flight to Italy? It was, but I got connecting flights to get up to the Riviera. Yeah, but it was pretty cool. And yeah, anyway, so it was a great trip. I see someone mentioning Jeep Wrangler. Where is that? Here we go. Aaron, you prefer driving manual. Your first car was a manual Jeep Wrangler. I gotta say, I drove like 20 cars in America, and the Jeep Wrangler, I think I came back from America saying that was my favorite. That said, if I went back to America now, in fact, I'm going back in September for work. And if I only get one car, I do think I'll get the Corvette C8 again. The Corvette C8 is a hypercar that is affordable. That car is insane, and I want to drive it again. But the Jeep Wrangler was amazing. I learned to drive in the New Zealand equivalent, the New Zealand Army Jeeps, Land Rovers in New Zealand. I learned to drive in one of those because my dad was in the army. We go into the training area sometimes, or go up to the rubbish tip in the regular family car and learn to drive that, was just pretty cool. So yeah, definitely more fun. It's more fun, except, when you're going up a hill and you change down gear so that you can overtake and you don't go any faster, the car just makes more noise, which is very much Panda power. But yeah. Anyway, let's get into topics such as we have. I just flipped through the news feeds, but I've really been out of touch. I'm 2 weeks out of Japan and not really following the news. That said, I'm happy to take topics. I'm happy to take comments and everything else. But yeah, let's have a quick look and see what we've got. So I see that Japan is still 118th in the world for world gender rankings. Saudi Arabia, after climbing, is still 132. So I was curious if it was catching up to Japan. It appears it is not. What is interesting is the UK has jumped from 14th to 4th, moving New Zealand down to 5th. So the UK seems to be doing pretty much better. But yeah, at the moment. By the way, I'm just distracted by the comments. I did not know that Jeep engines are actually Italian. Well, Fiat Group is enormous, right? Were they bought out by Volkswagen? Right now, the ownership things are so convoluted. But AMC, I didn't realize that they sourced them from there. Well, anyway, they're great engines. And I also see Believe in Yourself saying that your first car was an 87 Dodge Shadow Turbo, which I don't know what that is. My only car that I've ever owned was an automatic. It was a 1975, same age as me, Triumph Dolomite. You might want to look that up, but it was a good enough car. But it was kind of yeah, it was on its last legs when I had it. Anyway, gender rank, nothing's really changed. Participation in politics is low, even though Japan has a political system where parties can have party lists where they can appoint literally anybody. And if you have a look who's on the list, that's what they do. They literally sign up anybody to be on their lists, and they can just decide to make their list 50% women or whatever. And they don't do it. So on the one hand, while Japan is pledging to increase its ranking on global on gender equality, it's not doing anything other than giving aspirational standards for Kerberos Tenshi. Thank you for the updates. It's just not doing anything that it could, and it's not really changing. And I think when you look at tourism, which we're going to look at again with all of the stuff tonight, you can see when Japan sets its mind to something, it can definitely get results. It can definitely change things. And to me, this is just a sign that Japan isn't really interested in improving its gender ranking, but that's a thing. This next article was actually talking about how apparently in 2019, a law was passed making it, where is this? The central government began supporting municipalities reducing their reliance on volunteers after a law promoting Japanese language education took effect in 2019. However, it's hard to get funding for it. So while the government is sort of making it, it's a legal duty of local governments in Japan to maintain a learning environment for foreign residents to learn Japanese. So every government in Japan technically has a duty to try to make sure they provide an environment where people can learn Japanese. Most governments in Japan still rely over 80% on volunteers, generally just old people who like to come in and talk with people. I don't know. There's some criticism here that the reliance on volunteers may result in substandard education of Japanese for foreigners. My opinion on that is if you're relying purely on elderly volunteers for like structured Japanese language education, yeah, that is a problem. But I think there are enough resources around nowadays that young people, anyone who wants to learn Japanese seriously, there are enough resources online that are relatively affordable, particularly with AI now, that I think that's not so much of a concern. I think as well, I think it is actually wonderful that there are setups that if you are new in a community and you want to practice Japanese and basically have conversation practice with people who want to talk with and support foreigners, you know, elderly people, I think that's a great win-win, honestly. It's great for it's great for, I mean, it's multiple wins. It's wins for relations between, it creates bonds between the foreign communities and the Japanese communities. It gives the elderly people something to do to remain active and something constructive that they can do. And it's actually great to have conversation practice. I think if you think that these are professional instructors and you treat them like that and not like the conversation partner volunteers that they are, sure, you have a problem. But I think that, the number of volunteers in Japan, 23,000 of the 29,000 teachers at 1,548 language classes across the country were volunteers. So depending on how that's being represented, that is a problem. But I do think that it is actually a great thing. I don't think we should be discouraging people from being volunteers. And I'm glad that they have it. So long as people know that they're dealing with volunteers, I think that's pretty good. But yeah, Lara's heard that most of the volunteers are actually university students. Better still. I mean, I'm presuming it's old people. You're right. But to me, that's actually, in that case, that's like an untapped area. So I don't know how good they would be as teachers or how much they're expected to be like teachers, but it seems pretty good to me. So yeah, other stories that we've got, Adi Savia, who is a Samoan New Zealand and actually is considered right this year in New Zealand. He's considered the player of the season in New Zealand in our professional rugby competition. He's been playing rugby in Japan for a while. And this is what happens. A lot of our best players, in fact, right now, the best New Zealand rugby player in the world is Richie Mo'unga, who plays for Toshiba. And he's ineligible to play for New Zealand. New Zealand has a thing because we can't afford to compete on salary against Japanese and European clubs for players. We say to the players that if you go overseas for the money, you can't play for the national team anymore. So the only hook that New Zealand has to keep players in New Zealand is we say that if you want to win a World Cup, you want to play an international test match rugby series, you have to stay in New Zealand to do that. And that's the only thing we have to hold on to players, which kind of increases their value in a way. Clubs will pay more for players that they know would be in the national team if they stayed in New Zealand as additional compensation. So Ardie Savea is an amazing player who plays for Moana Pacifica in the Super Rugby competition, which is actually based in the hometown in southern Auckland where I was born, which is a mainly Pacific Island town now. And he's an amazing player, and he came back from Japan supercharged and playing the best rugby of his life, and he's coming back next year to play for the Kobe Steelers again. So that is some great news for Japanese rugby, and for me, since I can go watch it. Although I wish that New Zealand would allow players like that to play for New Zealand as well. So, Aaron talking about the volunteer Japanese language services, you'd use that to practice your Japanese, so long as you could do it over the internet. I think these are done in person. Again, maybe people who know, maybe Lara knows more about this, but it'd be pretty cool if they made it available online anyway. Consumer prices are up 3.7% on surging rice costs. Remember that rice has gone up 100% year over year. So if overall consumer prices are up 3.7%, it's obviously more than just rice, but rice is significantly lifting that when you think of that as a staple that most, but a decreasing amount, but still most Japanese households buy as their primary source of carbs. So this is a thing. And the fact that that is all managed by the government or mismanaged by the government, and the government has this problem now where wage inflation is way, way below consumer inflation, i.e. right now Japanese are affirmatively getting poorer all the time. And a big part of the reason is the increasing cost of rice, which is managed by the Japanese government in a controlled distribution, agricultural management and distribution system that's completely failed. And we're not just talking about butter this time. The fact that it's happening even with rice, I think shows what a disaster that is. I came back. I actually went to Family Mart today to go get a sandwich for lunch. And I noticed there are apparently 14 different types of Chocomint treats in Japan. I noticed in Europe, I didn't see very much Chocomint. It's very popular in Australia where it's always basically hot. In Japan, of course, it's seasonal. They only have it in summertime, and they have to be careful with the colors because where you might just have green highlighting that something is mint flavored in Europe or in America or New Zealand, in Japan, green means matcha. It means tea flavored, which means that they have to go for this kind of teal kind of image and to make sure it's distinguished from being tea. And when you're expecting to have a snack that tastes like sort of bitter kind of green tea type flavor, and instead it tastes like toothpaste, there are not insignificant proportion of the Japanese population that are traumatized by Chocomint and will say that they do not like it. To them, they'll say it's like eating toothpaste. I love toothpaste and I love Chocomint. So I'm going to probably be trying, provided I'll have to check out the holiday damage. I feel like I ate a lot in the last, like when I was traveling over here, I ate a lot of bread on the way over here, but I think I stayed in pretty good shape. I was running and keeping fit and going to the gym while I was away there. But yeah, if I'm within all my goals, I am going to systematically go through and try each one. Maybe not the cream sandwich. I've never really liked cream sandwiches. That doesn't make sense to me. But I'm definitely going to try some, if not all, of these 14 Family Mart Chocomint treats. So we'll see how those are going. We will also, I'm also curious to see. I've still got my stock from last year of my Chocomint Pockies. So we'll see what we get for limited edition Chocomint. Well, both mint and super sour drinks like lemon drinks that come out. In Japan, they only come out basically between now, June, and August, the summer months. Oh yeah, the other thing I should say, summer has started. I got back here. It was warm in France and Italy, but it was basically 29, 30 degrees. I get back here, it's like 33 degrees and sunny today, and I see it's going to be raining and 31 tomorrow. So yeah, we are into miserable summer already. And knowing that it easily gets over 35, probably in July, it's going to get worse. Yeah, summer is absolutely here. So I really don't recommend coming to Japan, honestly, until really October. But yeah, if you do come, just be warned, it is super hot at the moment. And if you do get suffer from heat exhaustion, I think it's proven that Chocomint will cure that heat exhaustion. And if it doesn't, just try eating toothpaste. That seems to be what works. Oh yeah, I noticed when I was going through updates, there is a new type of train pass for Tohoku, basically the area north of Tokyo, all of Japan except for Hokkaido north of, so all of Honshu north of Tokyo. There's a new unlimited ride JR pass, which I think lasts for a couple of weeks. It reads just like the old JR pass. It's a 3-day pass, but if you just take like 2 rides on it, you basically get your money back for the value of it, and it lets you ride on any train other than the bullet trains. Which I think if you get like a sleeper train and you save yourself the cost of a hotel, you instantly make back the value on this. And it's a fantastic way to travel. I did this backpacking when I was a student. Of course, I could use the bullet train back in those days, but I went around Aomori and Niigata and stuff like that, seeing friends and so on. So this is pretty cool in terms of the travel options for Japan, even though you shouldn't come. And if you do come, eat lots of Chocomint. But yeah, nice to see that they're still improving and increasing travel options for people who want to explore. And they're actually setting up a new Tokyo to, where does this go to actually? It goes to Tohoku, but does this go to Aomori, to the top of the island, or somewhere else? I've just realized it doesn't say, it just says Tohoku. Travel between Tokyo and the Tohoku region. So I'm not sure if this goes all the way to the top of Japan, but yeah, JR is bringing out a nothing but private cabs overnight sleeper train to replace the old Cassiopeia train that hasn't been running for 10 years. Looks like a cool train, and I must say, if you can get your own room and sleep in it and travel in it, this seems, again, like a way that I'd recommend for traveling around Japan, especially taking the train overnight and getting out and exploring and spending the day in a new place. So these are pretty cool options that are coming up for travel. A milestone that I'm almost surprised hasn't already been reached much sooner. Apparently, foreign tourists have only just now started to outnumber Japanese tourists in Kyoto hotels. I was under the impression that happened ages ago, but yeah, I'm glad I went to Kyoto. How long? 15 years ago, and I got that out of the way. But again, Kyoto in summer and in winter is colder in winter and hotter in summer than Tokyo. So if you go stay in a nice hotel. And yeah, it's also nice to hear that Kyoto, now with a competition for foreign tourists, they're actually becoming flexible on things like the packaged food and all that sort of stuff. So that's all pretty good. But yeah. Oh, heat wave in Indiana right now. I'm sure Sunny doesn't like hearing that either. And you're right in the middle of a big continent there. So yeah, that sounds pretty bad. Lysander 45 pointing out all the Tohoku travel options, definitely coming to a Chris Broad video soon. And he makes great travel videos, credit to him. I guess I'll talk about for a moment just the last story that I've got, just from what I went through the news just now. And obviously the big the big news story of the week global news story has been the war between Iran and Israel, and America just in the last day getting involved and participating as well. I'm immediately distracted by a comment by Dan H to keep this Japan-centric, and that's why I've also done this Japan-centric. There is an interesting Japan angle, that Japan has always had a kind of a special relationship with Iran, which is why it's not coming out openly supporting Israel or America on this. But Dan H finds it odd how hostile Western media were to Ishiba for condemning attacks on both sides. I haven't seen any Western media reaction hostile to Ishiba. What's important to understand is, one, Japan has almost no, unlike most Western countries, for various and different reasons, and no conspiracy theories or anything here, but a lot of Western countries are sympathetic to Israel, obviously. Both some countries like Germany, we're sort of sorry, and other countries just because there are lots of American and British and European, but not just actually. I mean, there are also, of course, remember Israel is what's the percentage? It's quite high. In fact, I think it's more than 50% of Jewish people in Israel are actually from Arab countries that were originally expelled from the Arab world after Israel was founded. But obviously, as they were expelled from those countries don't maintain ties with, for example, Tunisian, Moroccan, Iraqi, Iranian Jews in Israel. Obviously, they don't maintain good ties with their governments, unlike the British and French and other Jews there. Japan doesn't have any historical connection really with Israel. And so as a result, Japan, until recently, or even now, there's not a lot to see at the moment. Apparently, there are 1,000 Japanese people total in Israel. And that's like with some number like 200 people being evacuated from there. Japan has like almost zero connection to Israel, which is kind of funny when you think that both countries are thought of as high-tech countries. However, Japan does have very, very strong and deep connections with the Arab world because Japan doesn't have oil. And in fact, Japan's problems with not having its own source of oil, was not a small part of the reason for its war of aggression in World War II. When America cut off, when America imposed oil sanctions on Japan just before World War II, it was in order to make Japan stop attacking China. Japan decided it had to make a rush for Indonesia to try to get the oil from the Dutch controlled in Indonesia as a way of getting around the sanctions. That's not a legitimizing reason for the war. Japan should have just stopped attacking China, in the first place. The original sanctions from America were, I think, justified. But that said, after World War II, it sort of became a priority for Japan and everyone who knows Japan to know that Japan needed to make sure it never got into a situation of food shortages or energy shortages ever again. And most of Japan's foreign policy, to the extent it's not just following the United States. And one area where it actually really differs from the United States is in the Middle East. And specifically, Japan has really strong ties with UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Iran all at the same time. And for a long time, Japan was actually really invested in Iran. Even when the US had sanctions on Iran, Japan quietly got a hall pass from America to buy its oil from Iran until recent years. It's only pretty recently with the nuclear program issue that Japan has finally switched to other sources. But as a result, that Japan's energy security is completely dependent on Middle Eastern countries, on Arab countries, and until recently on Iran. Japan's always actually been kind of a quiet mediator between the West and Iran on diplomatic issues. There are tons of Iranian people in Japan, who, by the way, has to be said, Iranian people are great. I've never met an Iranian person or a Persian person. There are differences. People who call themselves Persians tend to be people who left before the current regime. But even people who have come, like in Japan, most people have come from the current government. Iranian people are awesome. I've never met one that I didn't like. The food is awesome. The culture is awesome. The country is amazing and fascinating. I wish it was open and accessible. And remember, the United States and even Israel actually used to have really close ties to Iran until the Islamic Revolution there. Iran was traditionally one of the most liberal countries in the Middle East, albeit under a dictator, king that they had under the Shah. But the result is that Japan has a very nuanced position in the Middle East. Israel doesn't offer Japan anything that outweighs its complete energy security that the Arab world does. So while Japan has some sensitive history towards Israel, that of course Japanese national terrorists were involved in a lot of the terrorism against Israel, the Japanese government kind of won't strongly ever speak up for Israel because it's really mostly concerned with keeping Qatar, UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Iran happy and as partners. And so hence when the war started between Israel and Iran, Japan, it's kind of understandable that it didn't take a side, or at least it didn't take a side any more than for example, Saudi Arabia did. And Saudi Arabia, remember, hates Iran more than America does. And while it's in a slightly complicated situation at the moment that most of its citizens are not happy with what Israel is doing, Israel's kind of doing Saudi Arabia's work at the moment. And I'm sure, like with America bombing Iran as well, it's kind of like the result of Iran's military capability and threat towards Saudi Arabia being degraded. This is something that they benefit from. So they're being very quiet, but obviously they can't come out and endorse Israel or America, doing this. So it's a complicated time. I think it's weird as well for the West, or basically it's kind of tone deaf to attack Japan over being relatively neutral on this. Japan's got its own interests, and this is one area where it actually does its own thing. What do I think about all of this? I'm not a Middle East expert. I'm not an expert, and even to the extent I follow and I know things, I don't pretend to have a more informed opinion on this than other people. Greece is a strong ally of Israel. I wasn't aware of that, Black Tengu, although I guess they're pretty close by. I guess it's kind of understandable with the church connections and everything with the holy sites in Israel as well. In my mind, one, I'll give my opinions. I'll say them really simply, and these are just personal opinions that are not informed and not authoritative and not really relating to Japan. But Japan's kind of on the fence position is understandable and is the only position that it can take. That's the first thing. For myself, I think that it would be great I think Israel has a right to exist. It was established by the United Nations and by a vote of the United Nations. Would that have passed today? Probably not. Does that give it a free pass to be an asshole? It does not. Do I think the current government is okay? Even most Israelis, I think right now, don't think the current government of Israel is doing the right things. That said, it doesn't give Hamas free reign to attack, particularly inside the Green Line. There should be two states. There should be a two-state solution, if you ask me. Not river to the sea. Israel should continue to exist, and a Palestinian state should exist, and they should be there in peace. The October 7 attacks were a terrorist attack by an illegitimate entity, and Israel had a right to respond to that. And that response kind of extends to the extent that Iran, even though of course the Muslim Brotherhood / Hamas are of course a Sunni group, Iran's been happy to provide them with weapons, and which it does with the Houthis, which it does with Hezbollah, and it does with Hamas. And Israel's kind of in terms of targeting, first of all, the offshoots of Iran, to the extent that Iran's been providing the missiles that have been shot into, Green Line Israel, not the occupied territories. I think Israel is entitled to respond to that proportionally. I don't know that the current action in Gaza is anything that can be called proportional anymore, but at the same time, it's also understandable at a certain point. How far do you let Iran keep arming everybody who's shooting at you without going back to the source of the problem and retaliating against Iran? I mean, Iran has been waging a direct war against Israel, but that said, I mean, both are nuclear powers, and if this ends up now or 10 years down the road as a nuclear war, I think that's a bad thing. I mean, I really hope that we would end up in a day soon. Honestly, what I would love to see is everybody, including Iran, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Syria, everybody having diplomatic relations, a free trade area, human rights, democracy, and free trade and mutual diplomatic, recognition. That's the end goal. And anyone who says that the other side shouldn't exist, including Israel, saying that Iran shouldn't exist, just the same as Iran saying Israel shouldn't exist or whatever, are not doing the right things. And I think Japan, rather than vocally taking a side saying we're all in with Israel or we're all in with Iran or whatever, being nuanced on this, is kind of the right thing to do from a lot of perspectives, and speaking up for the rights of people who are the victims of this. And there are victims on all sides from this, and speaking up from them rather than vocally saying that we should be bombing. This idea in the West that there's always got to be a good guy and a bad guy, and you've always got to, I mean, I suppose that there are, and I feel very strongly, for example, the war in Ukraine, that everybody should be supporting Ukraine. But yeah, no, I hope we get to a solution here, and I actually hope that Japan maintains a position where it's able to contribute to an outcome where we don't have wars like this anymore. But yeah, it's an interesting time to see where all of the, and hopefully this ends soon. But also, I mean, if this all ends in a way that results in less conflict, um, I could see how it could result in less conflict in the short term. I worry a little bit more about the long term, whether this is going to create more animosity towards Israel that could result in a bigger and worse war later on. But we'll see how things go. Greece, Israel, and India are getting together against Turkey. Well, I mean, Israel's always had good relations, relatively good relations with Turkey. I think Turkey's recently sort of been less favorable towards Israel. But I know that Israel's been tied up with the Kurds in Syria and so on as well. I know that there's enormously complicated relations there, but I think Erdogan has overseen. I mean, as has Netanyahu, sure, but I don't think Israel seeks bad relations with Turkey. I think it's Erdogan who's been degrading those relations, but we'll see. Why can't we all just get along? Exactly. Aaron, I think you put it the best. But yeah, the relationship on either side, good new leadership is definitely a good idea with all of this. I actually think it's something to remember when we characterize whole enormous, complex, and nuanced countries like Iran as being uniformly the same and bad. Certainly, I've got problems with the regime there, but I think we should also remember you've got a country like Turkey, for example, of size and diversity, and with amazing people, a lot of smart people. I mean, I'd love to be a tourist and go through that part of the world, and to see more interchange. And I think Japan has actually been uniquely able to continue doing that. And I really hope that Japan can play some part in some sort of positive resolution to all of this, if one is possible. Since it's the Middle East that we're talking about, it's probably not. And this is why I'll stick to talking about Japan. But I think throwing rocks at Japan over its position, I think, as usual, is just, speaking out your ass. It's not really understanding Japan's position. So anyway, that's me, and that's all the topics that I had. Great to see we've got Eric Bailey joining in. Now would be a great time to invade New Zealand if the Aussies would get off their lazy bums. Honestly, the Aussies would get there and find that everything costs more, wages are lower. There's nothing really that Australia would want, I think, in New Zealand. I mean, as much as a New Zealander, we're convinced that they're after our sheep. They're not. Both are lovely countries. I would actually support. Here we go. I'll go controversial. Just like I think there should be a free trade, peaceful, unified Middle East. I'd be all for that for the entire Pacific, including Australia, New Zealand, Pacific Islands. I reckon that'd be awesome. But I don't think I'm all for New Zealand acquiring Australia as a Western island. I think that would be awesome. Jane Motts, great to have you back in here, and I really did enjoy the trip. I'm currently on the phase where I should be sleepy, but I'm not because of the jet lag. But I've got to get to sleep tonight, so I'm going to end the show right after this. Coffee Sniffer is doing a walk in Istanbul in 10 minutes. Oh, that's pretty good. And actually, yeah, I think I mentioned before, I've got on my genealogy world tour thing. Istanbul is on the list. There's specifically a cemetery in it was called Constantinople when they lived there. But I've got relatives to go track down who lived in Istanbul as well. So I'd love to go there someday, and that would be pretty awesome. An evening live stream walk in Istanbul. That sounds pretty cool. Let's make Persia great again. Defend the sheep. Yes, indeed. All of these things. Defend the sheep. Defend the rice. Defend the butter. All of these things. We can all just live together with different agricultural products and Italian coffee. That is what my conclusion of the whole trip. Italian coffee, good lamb, and butter, and some rice, affordable rice. I think the sheep must be protected at all costs. And I'll tell you, if there's something that I think could unify the Middle East, I think it would be a phrase like the sheep, the butter, and the hummus. Not Hamas. Hummus should be protected at all costs. Yeah, I can now see the problems with the phrasing of that. But this is how we bring the world together. with some Italian coffee. Maybe the Italian coffee isn't good. Maybe people should be asleep. I'm not sure. Maybe they should all be jet lagged. I think that could be the solution. Make Earth great again. That could be the one. Mega. That could be. I think that the German chap who moved to New Zealand, Kim.com, I think he's probably copyrighted that, but we'll see what happens. I am going to go and attempt to rest. I'm going to be back full force. We'll be doing a new MASH battle this week. Sonny, I have decided. Hummus is the best. Seriously, I eat hummus almost for every day for breakfast, by the way. And I think between hummus and lamb, and I think we can find a global peace solution somewhere that involves these products. Where's Xerxes when you need him? oh dear. Ask the Greeks. I think they saw him last. I will take care of myself. The new MASH battle this week, I announce it now, Sonny. It's my turn to pick the track. I normally pick it from the after party request, but since I'm not doing an after party. It's going to be Push It by Salt and Pepper. We are going to have a MASH battle of Push It, Salt and Pepper this week. Sonny, you are on notice if you're still watching. That's going to be super fun. Remember, go subscribe to Tokyo Digital Crew. I'm probably going to put up some mixes. Now that I'm back, I'm probably going to catch up on the new music mixes and so on. And I'll see you all back here next week. Definitely going to do some more 2.5 Voyages with Victor soon, so look out for notifications about that. More music, more Japan stuff. Stay cool, unless you're in the Southern Hemisphere, in which case stay warm. It's pretty cold down there. Musashi Mark, thank you. I will enjoy the jet lag, and hope that you will have a great week. And boom, peace. Have a good one. Thanks for keeping me company. Great to see so many people.